Hey, what's up everyone, it's your girl Brainy Shanae, and today I'll be sharing with you my May wrap up, so please stay tuned. And I am back, and also if you're new to my channel, welcome. If not, welcome back. So like I said before, I'll be sharing with you my May wrap up. May was definitely slow reading month for me. I do not know what happened. I think maybe I stepped into a reading slump sometime between the middle of May, perhaps. I don't know what was going on, but I felt like I also needed a break. I think I was also getting burned out a little bit. So I took that time to, do other things and binge some TV shows that I've been wanting to watch. But I did read a total of 11 books in May. So let's go ahead and get started with these first 3 books. These are children books, which they are picture books. So the first book, for as far as the picture book goes, is The Paperboy by Dob Pilkey. I read this to my kids, and my son particularly loved this book, mostly because it's a paperboy. And of course, we all gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and literally my son told me he wants to become a paperboy. And I'm like, okay, sure, but probably when you're older, of course, and you probably won't be riding a bike around the neighborhood or like that. The world is just not how it used to be back then. And I don't expect my son to be going on his bike by himself in the middle. It's still nighttime, it's dark outside. So yeah, I said that could happen, if you want to do that. It's just that, adult will be with you, either myself or your dad, if you would like to do that, but you will not be riding a bike in the middle of the night in a neighborhood by yourself. That's just not happening. So we gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars, and he just loved this so much. Then the next book we have is Dreamers by Maurice. My daughter actually loved this one. She gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, as well as I did. And it talks about dreamers, what you need to do in order to reach your dreams. Especially in America, they said this is the home of the, of the American dream, right? Which there's some truth to that, and there are some false things to that as well. But it's still possible. It's possible to still have your dreams come true if you just work for it. And that's what it pretty much shows in this book itself. Especially, if you want to learn English and wanting to learn to read and stuff, like it shows a lot of that in this main character. When she comes to America and she's trying to have the American dream, and she's trying to reach out, and literally for her to do that, she walked into a library and she realized that it's possible and she can grasp it. It's there. So that's what I really loved about this book, and I know that's what my daughter appreciated from this book. So yeah, we gave this a 5 out of 5 stars, and we have been reading it ever since, like every single night. She always talks to me about this book and how she dreams of, doing this and doing that. She just has a lot of dreams, and I said, they're bound to happen. You just got to work hard towards them, and you will have it. Your dreams will come true. So yeah, a 5 out of 5 stars for this book. And then the next book, which my daughter loves so much because she's now she's beginning to, she's been reading, but she's beginning to start spelling and stuff and all that, and having bigger, longer words. And we watched, as we had a family movie night, and we watched Tequila and the Bee. And I had watched this with my children for the very first time, and my daughter was so inspired. She said she wants to be in the spelling bee one day and become a champion. And that really put a smile on my face for her to say that. Like she really loved that movie. And so I found this book, and I was like, oh, this is a perfect book for her. And that is Stacy's Extraordinary Words by Stacey Abrams. And of course, we gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Because not only sometimes you may not win your first time or the second time, but if you keep trying and you keep working at it, you will eventually become a champion, and you will win. You will win the spelling bee. You're bound to make mistakes. Even with the main character being a spelling bee, it provides so much more than just that. Like even in life, like you are going to make mistakes, and it's your job or for you to be willing to learn from those mistakes. So we love this book. We still read it regular basis, and she still wants to become a spelling bee champion. So that's what I'm working on with her, and that's what my husband's working on her. That's what my mom and my mother-in-law is working with her. So we're all coming together, and we're going to make her dreams come true and make it happen. So yeah, we gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. This next book is a debut from this author, and I did an entire book review about it, so I'll leave it up above so you can check it out after you watch this video, and that is Deep in Providence by Maurice M. Nielsen. This is her debut, and this was so good. Like 5 out of 5 stars for me. I love this wholeheartily, tremendously. And I say this a lot in my book review because it was so relatable. It had me in tears, and I'm trying not to be in tears now just talking about it. About 3 girls coming together trying to bring their best friend back to life. But within them doing that, all 3 of them have different backgrounds as far as family. And I feel like with the 2 girls that I relate to most is Miliani and Natalie. And I'm not going to say anything more about it because you got to check out my review. It's very extensive and I give you details but no spoilers. But overall, this book is a 5 out of 5 stars. I love this book. I do plan on reading more books by this amazing author. She has done a fantastic job with this book. And of course, the location in this book is located in Providence, Rhode Island, hence Providence. But yeah, love this book. Gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I highly suggest that you go pick up this book and read it for yourself, either if you are, have access to a library or to a bookstore, indie bookstore, wherever that you may be, have access to a book or this book particularly. Go ahead and pick this up because this book is amazing and you should not miss out. This is definitely a debut that needs to be picked up and read. It just needs to. But yeah, 5 out of 5 stars for Deep in the Providence by Maurice M. Nielsen. This next book, like me and Alicia we're buddy reading this book. And we both were behind, especially like May, which is a bad month, like reading month for both of us. Especially I came down with a cold, and then Alicia was also, had to take care of her health as well, which is more important. So we were behind, but then we were able to read it eventually, and we finally read it. And I finished this book within maybe 3 days, even though it's a chunky book. And it's adult book, of course, adult fiction. And that is The City of Dusk by Tara Sim. It says Darkness Falls, Gods Rise. And I believe I gave this book, I think, a 4 out of 5 stars, if I'm not mistaken. Like, let me see. I have my notes here. Yeah. Oh no, I gave it 3 stars. The only reason why I gave it 3 stars is because there's so much info dumping at the very beginning, which I do get, because you go into the different kingdoms and the different houses, because there's 4 different houses. You have House of Mardova, which the power is Elementalist and the god is Dea. You have House of Seer, which is the power of Lumen and the god is Phos. And you have House of Lestrider, and that is power of Shade and the god is Nyx. And then the last house is House Vakara. It has power of Necromancy and the god is Thana. So you have all these different houses, you have all these different characters, and I'm not gonna lie, like I had to go back like to the front multiple times to see okay, this character belongs to this house and whatever. So it gives you like a little key right here just to keep in touch with it. But I had to do that a lot throughout this book. But at the end of the day, I did appreciate this book. I will continue on reading the series. I think it's a series or duology, I'm not sure. But I love this book. I liked it. But then again, like I said, there was this, I don't know, I didn't have a connection at the beginning, but I kept on going because I was so close to DNF in this book, which is why I gave it a 3 stars, 3 out of 5 stars. But it gets really good towards the end of the book, which I think that's what saved it for me. Especially when we think about the houses and they're all trying to be in the king's favor in order to be his heir. And then we found out about the gods and their purpose in this and how they use their bodies, the house, like the main character's bodies, as a vessel, because the whole point of the gods is they're trying to attack and kill one another, even though because they're not in their realms, so they use their bodies as vessels. So it was very interesting. There's death in this book as well, so this is definitely an adult book, just to let you know. And I enjoyed it. Like my favorite character or characters, I think I'll say, let me see, I'm looking to the key because like I said, their names sort of seemed the same to me. So my favorite characters was Tasia, and I think Dante, even though we don't see much of Dante except from him being executed and stuff for killing a man, but we know why and how that happened, and his sister Tasia also knew why, and so their house was pretty much looked down upon. And of course, they were not in favor with the king. But the king was also part of this whole scheme, or motive for the gods to be the vessels of these houses, right? So I don't know. Like I said, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I will continue on reading the series. I think there's another book, maybe 2 more books after this, or maybe 1 more. So I'm intrigued. I really want to know what's the whole point, because I know at the very end, they happen to be into the realms of the gods themselves. So yeah, I found this interesting, but I gave it, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. But overall, I still enjoyed it. And I look forward to see what the author has for the second book. So we have The City of Dusk by Tara Sim. Now, this next book I had read with Bree from Bree Cherie Reads, and this was such a great book, a great conclusion to the saga. And I was crying, like, especially with the 2 characters that died in this book. I was bawling in tears because this world, oh my God, it's so amazing. Like, I do plan on rereading this saga because it's that great. And I do plan on reading the little prequel that's coming out, which I think has already come out. I'm just waiting to get my copy because I pre-ordered it, and I know the printers are backed up, or excuse me, delayed. So I'm excited for that. I believe it's called the Jade Setter or something like that. But anyway, the book that I'm talking about is Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. And of course, this is a chunky book. And I think another reason why May was such a slow reading month for me is because I was reading a lot of chunky books. And I think that's also what got me into not in a mood to read as much. But yeah, a 5 out of 5 stars for Jade Legacy. I was scared to start reading this because I knew a lot of people said this was gonna like break me, like make me cry, and it did. Especially with the characters that had died. Like, I expected one to die, but not the other, and I was just like blown away. Like, Fonda Lee's writing, it's so beautiful. It's so good. Hilo, the No Peak Clan, the mountain, like, it was just so good. And you know, the conclusion with Nico and what his stance is with the clan, and his decisions that he made that broke the clan but also brought them back together. Like, I loved it. I love Shay, her fam, like, I loved everything. I loved everything about this. I have no complaints. It was just such a good book. And I do plan on reading more by Fonda Lee. I really want to see what else she brings to the table, because what she did with the Greenbone saga, and like, she, even in her acknowledgments and even in her notes, how she was struggling to finish this book, especially during the pandemic when it was just starting. I can only imagine like your imagination and stuff, like, it's blurry because you're focused on what's happening in the world today, and you're trying to write a book, which this book is huge. This is a monster, but it was worth it, and I appreciate the writing so much. Just amazing. So yeah, I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars, and if you haven't read the Greenbone saga, I highly suggest that you do so, because you are missing out on a fantastic world filled with gangs, action, a whole bunch of stuff popping off. So yeah, love this, and I cannot wait to read more by Fonda Lee. So we have it here, Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. This next book I read it because I've been wanting to read it for a while, and I was a little bit disappointed. I think it was just, I think it was predictable, but I still enjoyed the story. I still appreciated the story, but I think it just, it was just too predictable for me. But I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars because I still enjoyed the world. And that is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio. And it was a beautiful book. I love the scenery. I love the world and stuff. But it was really, really predictable to me. I was like so disappointed because I really was like, I don't know, like, I don't know what I just had high expectations, and it just didn't hit right with me. So this book, like I said, I love the world and stuff, but it was so predictable to me. But I do appreciate the story. Do not get me wrong. I do appreciate the story. I do appreciate what it was saying, or how the story was told. Like, I appreciate it so much. But if you pick up this book, I suggest you do so. Don't stir away just because of how I felt about the book. I still want you to have your own opinion about the book from you reading it yourself. So definitely read it and find out how you feel about it. But yeah, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars for The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio. Now, this next book was recommended to me by Deja. She's always on my reading sprint. She's been in my comments on YouTube, on BookTube, and I really appreciate this book. Now, I can't really describe it so much because a lot of stuff is happening, and there's a lot of like words in here where it has a glossary on some of the meanings, which I appreciated. It was just a fantastic book, and I did tab it just to keep track of certain things, and a lot of things, especially talks about colonialism, you know, a world where they didn't want to be colonized anymore. They found a way to have their own world without it being interrupted, and have their own rituals and their own religion and stuff. But then, you know, something got in the way, where they're trying to tear down what they had built. And like I said, I appreciate this story. I appreciate this book, but it's really complex. And it's not for everyone. But that is Sweep of Stars by Maurice Bratis. And this is a saga. So I think there's going to be 2 more books after this. So I cannot wait to read the other 2 when they come out. But it's a science fiction book with fantasy, of course. And I just fell in love with this so much. And for me to like describe this book, I could say like a few words. Think of N.K. Jemisin of the Broken Earth trilogy. That's how it's written, how the book is written. So think about N.K. Jemisin when you pick up this book. And then also, as far as the world building as a whole, I think of Nnedi Okorafor. So yeah, you have N.K. Jemisin in here, and you have Nnedi Okorafor intertwined into one in this book. And Maurice Bratis did a fantastic job with this. And like I said, it's not for everyone, but I loved it. Like, I do plan on reading like the next 2 books because I really want to know what happens next. But I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because there were times where I was lost, but then I started to have a better sense of understanding with it. It just takes time, and you're not gonna understand everything. You have the main character, which at the very beginning of the book, she has her name ceremony, and I loved everything about it. I loved it. It was just amazing. It goes into the tribes of the Adisa family. It has a glossary of timeline right here. Like before you read it, it has a timeline of going back for the past to like 2019, where it says Ghana's president Nana Akufo-Addo declared and formally launched the year of return, Ghana 2019, for Africans in the diaspora, giving fresh impetus to the quest to unite Africans on the continent with their brothers and sisters in the diaspora. And then it goes into the future. So this is the year that it sets is a 2121. So you have to think of that. And it gives you West African proverbs. So at the very beginning of the book, it says, the beauty in blackness is its ability to transform. Like energy, we are neither created nor destroyed, though many try. And with that alone, I'm like, yeah, this book is for me. Like, it's for me. But like Amachi Adisa, like the naming ceremony, you know, her name was Leah Adisa for now, but then with the naming ceremony, she was able to change her name. And I love this so much. And, you know, with Milano and what he went through, especially with his sister being killed, he realized that the world was again being taken over, and he was not going to allow that happen. But their ancestors was telling him that he shouldn't be trying to be with rage, and that's what he was going about it with, as in rage and vengeance. And that's what it goes into, like Amachi Adisa. So they're in space, and it even says at the very ending, it says the fire dances in the night, blowing in an unfelt breeze, while Nahanda begins her night song. And this is when we talk about Amachi, because Amachi Adisa, who was brought up in the very beginning, she's very significant in this book. So I definitely look forward to the second one. But like I said, this book is not for everyone, but I loved it, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. So here we have Sweep of Stars by Maurice Bratis. Now, this next book, I did a whole review about it, so I'll leave it up above so you can check out that video as well after you watch this one. And that is Kaikei by Vashnavi Patel. Hopefully I'm saying the author's name right. If not, I do apologize. But I love this book. I did give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I rounded it up to 4 stars. It definitely was great. It talks about how Kaikei was the villain. She was villainized in this book itself. Just because of the choices she made, but only to help her family at the end of the day. I'm not going to go too deep into this book because you got to check out my review. It's dope. But yeah, I I love this book. I appreciated it so much. It was a fantastic read. So if you haven't picked up this book yet, I suggest you do so because you're missing out on it. But yeah, I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars, and yes, it was amazing. So here we have it. Kaike. This next book, I was debating if I was going to give this a 4 or a 5 star. So I gave it a 4 star. Because I felt like there should have been a little bit more in here. Like, this is a big chunky book, but I felt like there was something missing. But I do appreciate this book. It did have me cry at the end. People were warning me about this book and I did not listen. And I'm just like, no. But yeah, Brandon Sanderson's writing is phenomenal. I can't say it is phenomenal. He's still writing books. Still, like, multiple books a year. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And so I read The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. Now, I had read this book a little bit into June, but I want to put this in my May wrap up because this was part of my May TBR. And this book, a lot of things came into intuition. Like, a lot of things was obvious, but I didn't know for sure until I finished this book, and it all made sense. It all came together. Like The Hero of Ages, we all assumed, Vin was the hero of ages, but then it starts to make sense because it says it in the name, the hero of ages. That's a vital word in there. Ages. And Vin is not that old. So it makes sense so much. I did not see it. And we know about the Spikes, the Inquisitors, the Kandra, like the Kolas. Like, it all makes sense on how and who created them, and ruin and preservation. It just all made sense, and I love this book. I just wish there was a little bit more info in it, but Brandon Sanderson, he does things the way he does, and it'll eventually come into play with the other books. So me and Bree from Bree Reads will continue on reading with the Brandon Sanderson read along. So yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I love this so much. The ending definitely got me. Like, let me just read you a passage because it definitely it got me so much. It says, okay, let me find it. Sorry if it's a little spoilery, but I got to. Preservation could never destroy you, she thought, almost screaming it against the agony. He could only protect. That's why he needed to create humankind. All along, ruin, this was part of his plan. He didn't give up part of himself, making himself weaker, simply so that he could create intelligent life. He knew he needed something of both preservation and of ruin. Something that could both protect and destroy. Something that could destroy to protect. He gave up his power at the well and into the mist, giving it to us so that we could take it. He always intended this to happen. You think this was your plan? It was his. His all along. Ruin cried out. Still, she drove on. Oh, man. And it says, you created the thing that can kill you, Ruin, Vince said, and you just made one huge final mistake. You shouldn't have killed so-and-so. I'm not going to say it. You see, he was the only reason I had left to live. And it says, her consciousness now formed and saturated with preservation. And with a surge of power, then bid farewell to the world and then pulled Ruin into the abyss with her. It says, their two minds puffed away like mist under a hot sun. And that was just crazy to me. Oh my God. And then, I'll say this one more time. It's spoilers, so sorry. It says, she knew that and knew that there were nothing she could do. They brought pain, true, but not the pain she had expected. I let him go long ago, she thought, stroking his face. At the Well of Ascension, Allomancy brought him back to me for a time. She didn't feel she didn't feel the pain or terror that she had known before when she thought him dead. This time, she felt only peace. These last few years had been a blessing, an extension. She'd given Ellen up to be with his own man, to risk himself as he wished, and perhaps to die. She would always love him, but she would not cease to function because he was gone. Vin grew so much. Vin grew up from being this annoying girl to being this paranoid girl to really coming to peace, which she can't be everyone's protector. She cannot be Ellen's protector. She cannot. It's just, she wouldn't be able to live. And I think I love Vin. Like, after reading this book, yes, Vin had done some crazy things and was being stubborn and stuff in the past, but she definitely grew up. She had learned from her mistakes. She had learned about the world and everything, and ruin and preservation. It makes me think about this world today, of how our government, how the world is just being destroyed by us, and we're still destroying it and not preserving it like we should be. And I really enjoyed this book. I definitely appreciated its message. I definitely cannot wait to read The Mistborn Heir 2 in June. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. But yeah, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars for The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. And then, of course, I read the novella, which is called The 11th Metal. It's in the Archaeum Unbounded by Brandon Sanderson. And it was literally not that, maybe 20 pages or maybe 40. I'll say 40 pages. And it gives a good background on Kelsier when he had escaped from the pits. And we get into more detail about how he was able to use his powers, who taught him that. So we were able to find out more detail about that, and about the significance of the flower, the picture of the flower that Kelsier, his wife, had. So I appreciated it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, because it's like, oh, okay, but I didn't really care much about it. But who knows, it might be beneficial for when we read more books in the Bratis Sanderson read along. But I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. But that is it. Those are all the books I read in May. I have appreciated every single book that I have read in May. All these books were fantastic. Some were better than others, but I still appreciated the story that was told within all these books. And I definitely cannot wait for June, because there's definitely some good books I plan on reading in June. But I really hope you enjoyed this May wrap up. If you did, please, please, please give me a thumbs up. Also hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But thank you so much for watching, you guys, and please stay healthy and stay safe. See ya!